Hey, Ken, thanks for doing this, by the way. Gene Wong, Washington Post. Could you give us an update on the quarterback situation? Obviously, you wanted to see that in spring ball, which didn't happen. So where are you at in terms of that and having to replace Malcolm? Obviously, a tall task.
Yeah, I would say it was our number one goal before COVID-19 hit, and obviously not being able to have spring practice, and normally guys are working out right now together as an offense or a defense. You're working out as a team, and so we're not any closer to that. We talk about it every day, and we just have our guys that right now probably Perry Olson, who's has the most experience from last year. Came in a little bit towards the ending part of the Notre Dame game last year. Chance Warren, our guys probably in the mix. And then after that, with we got a Masai Maynor, guys that are coming after that. But it's a little tough right now. Tiger Gosselin is another guy that we're thinking about too. Dalen Morris. Those are probably the guys. It's going to be tough for a freshman to come in with even a shorter camp. So right now, those are probably the guys. And to be honest with you, Jim, we don't know. we were just talking about it again today in our meetings, and we have the same meetings every day, and it's the same discussion. But we're allowed to have meetings, so that's the best we've been able to do. Just some of the virtual meetings that we've been having like this, and so you can imagine trying to get a quarterback ready on one of these kind of meetings. So just trying to get a quarterback ready to play on a Zoom or a Google Meets call. So that's what we're trying to do right now.
Thanks, Ken.
Stephen Ruiz.
Hi, this is Stephen. I work for a magazine called Military Families. Coach, first, thanks for taking the time. I wanted to ask you about how the team is preparing for the season in light of COVID-19. What has been your message to the players? And of course, this has affected the training as compared to a normal season that you guys would be going through in preparation for the season. But just in what ways have you guys had to streamline what you've been able to do to prepare for the season?
Thank you, Stephen. I think early on when this first started, I think everybody in the world was in the same boat. None of us knew, what this means. And I guess we're still trying to figure it all out. But early on is just checking how our players were doing. We had meetings, so to speak, but there are more, checking up on our players, see how they're doing, what was their situation and wherever they live. Being, our school, United States Naval Academy, we have young men from around the country. So just checking how they were doing. And then that eventually evolved into, okay, what do you have for workout, equipment? Certain guys had different things that they could work out with. Some guys had access to weights in the garage. Some guys didn't have anything. So just trying to provide them some guidance on how to work out and those kinds of things. Eventually that moved into a meeting phase that the NCAA allowed us to do. And so, we had 2 position meetings a week. And then we had a team meeting early on. So we had 3 meetings in the middle part of the pandemic. Again, I didn't want to go too strong in football because there are a lot of things going on. I mean, obviously this is, a terrible deal going on. So there are a lot of things going on in our country with the pandemic. So I want to make sure that our guys are okay that way and evolving a little bit into football. And now we're kind of just recently, maybe within the last couple of weeks, trying to hone in down on our exact schedule. Our schedule that we have, I think I've ripped it up and thrown it out more times than I can remember. Normally we have a schedule ready in place by, the end of May, mid-April, as far as our camp and our practices and everything. But everything's so fluid now. But I think we've gotten to a point now where we know exactly what guys are going to be, who's going to report, when they first report, what they're allowed to do. And then we'll transition to different phases of, going into bigger pods and bigger groups to work out. So really more than anything right now, we've been, preparing by meetings, these type of meetings. And now we're preparing to let them know what they're going to do when they come back. But from a physical standpoint, haven't been able to do much. Some guys in different states are able to do more. Some guys aren't as much able to do as much. Some guys live in apartment complexes. Some guys live in a place where they have access to a field. And so we know there's been a variance in degree of preparation. So we just got to be super smart when we get back as far as how we prepare. Obviously, we want to expedite that as quickly as we can. We got the best team on our schedule for our opponent, our opening team. So we want to get ready as quickly as we can, but we also want to be wise on that. We don't want to push too quickly where you have, guys get, first of all, we don't want guys to test positive and that spread first and foremost. But from a physical standpoint, as far as conditioning, we don't want a ton of hamstrings and a ton of groins and pulls and that sort of stuff. So most of the preparation has been mental. That's all we can do. I don't think anybody's complaining, but we kind of feel like this will hopefully it'll be an edge for our program. I think right now is when discipline will come into place. What you do when nobody's watching, so to speak. You have the discipline to do what you're supposed to do, and I feel like that's our team in a nutshell. That's our program, and so hopefully this will be a benefit for us. We're really at this point, all of us, every program in the country is in the same boat. Nobody could really do much. So hopefully, our discipline part helps us because of the lack of physical preparation.
Coach, I had one follow-up question. There's been a lot of reports across the country of various college teams involuntary workouts, and there have been reports of positive COVID-19 tests. I'm just wondering, are you in contact or is the program in contact with other schools about what you guys can learn from these instances to help better prepare when you guys do get back together to try to protect your players as much as possible?
Well, not really. I read like everybody else. I think we're all kind of watching with everything. Some guys too are guarded in what you're allowed to say about what's going on, for privacy matters about disclosing about their players. But the Naval Academy, since this pandemic started, the Naval Academy has been really thorough on their meetings. I know our trainers and our doctors and our medical people at the Naval Academy have been meeting pretty much daily on this stuff. First of all, for the return of our midshipmen, our plebes, then our football players. And so I feel at peace with that, just with the protocol that's in place, all the different safeguards that, we're trying to do. But I think we're all still learning. I think, like I said, we have the smartest and the brightest and the most qualified people in the world trying to figure this virus out, and we're still trying to figure it out. So I think we're all still learning. And I think one benefit of our school being a little bit more deliberate and taking its time and making sure that, what we're doing is the right thing. We've been able to see other people and hopefully learn from it. But as far as me talking to people personally, no, just like everybody else, you kind of read what everybody else is doing. You don't know what exactly is the truth and what's being reported, but you try to, take what you can from what other people are doing. But I feel very good about what the academy has been doing, first and foremost in our medical staff to get our football team ready.
Thank you, Coach.
For those of you who joined us a little late, at the bottom of the screen, there's a chat function. Just chat question, and we'll call people in order. You can ask a question and a follow-up, and then if you want to get back in line, that's fine too. Also, if you're having problems recording, we are recording it. Just email me at the end of this, and I can email you the recording, no problem. Todd Karpovich, you're up.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for doing this. Todd Karpovich from Press Box. Going back to the quarterback situation, mainly with Perry Olson, he's had some experience running the triple option, I think his senior year in high school and then at prep school. Does that experience bode well for him kind of going in and kind of working his way up the depth or being atop the depth chart and running your offense because he does have some experience?
No, that definitely puts him at the head of it just because of all of his experience that he has. I mean, being able, he, was an option guy in high school, big physical runner, being at a prep school, played quarterback at prep school and knows our offense. So that definitely helps. He was a backup last year. And, obviously with Malcolm playing predominantly the most part of the year, he didn't get to play as much. But he got in there. I got to play against Notre Dame, and I thought he did some good things there at the end of the game. The game was out of hand at that time when he got in there. But I thought he, did some good things. So physically has all the tools. So we'll just see. I guess you're always concerned. I wouldn't say that I'm not concerned. I'd be lying. So you're concerned, with how that's going to transpire. But the two things I feel good about is the group of guys that we have that we're picking from, and second of all, the guy coaching them. Ivan Jasper to me is the best quarterback coach in the country. He's done a great job of molding quarterbacks, different types of quarterbacks. And I was just thinking the other day, it's not like we're, producing an NFL team, a college team that produces all this NFL talent. But he's had two quarterbacks drafted in the last 5 years in the NFL, which, shows what kind of quarterback coach he is. But that's what puts Perry right above everybody else just because of his experience and his skill set.
Morgan Novak is up. Patrick Engel next.
Hey, Coach, thanks. It's Morgan Atzett with Fox 45 in Baltimore. I know it's kind of impossible to know this for anyone, but what's your confidence level just that there will be a season to what we're used to seeing? And are there concerns with just the contact nature of the sport with football and spreading the virus?
Well, there's definitely concern. I think we're learning more, but like you said, Morgan, we're all still trying to figure it out. I'm hopeful that we're going to have a game. I'm pretty optimistic. I know that, again, from our academy side, they're working hard on it. And I know athletic department, Chuck Gladchuck, our athletic director, and all of his staff have been working tirelessly to make sure what's our protocol for a game. I know the American Conference, we've been meeting, and some of the guidelines that they put, are as good as you can have. I don't know if anyone's protocol is bulletproof, but I think, they're doing all they can to, keep things in small bubbles. At this point, we're planning on having a limited amount of fans if we're able to for our game. There'll be some social distancing. There'll be a percentage that, like I said, the Ched and superintendent that they come with as far as how many can come to the game. And so I'm encouraged that there'll be fans. Obviously it won't be a full stadium, and it'll be a lot different from other games that we've ever played at the Naval Academy, but that's the new norm now, but I think everything that they say and all the things that you've been, I've been in all these meetings for the last 4 months, and, everything looks good. So I'm optimistic, but like you said, Morgan, none of us know, there could be something and, something happened, but at this point, I feel good about all that I've heard and seen and all the plans that we have in place.
Patrick Engel and then Mike James.
Hi, Ken. I'm Patrick Engel. I cover Notre Dame for Rivals.com. And wanted to ask, when did you kind of get the sense that the game in Ireland would be pretty tough to pull off? And once you did, what were those conversations like with figuring out where to move it and eventually settling on Annapolis as the place to do it?
Be honest with you, Patrick, and you cover Notre Dame, so you know this. I wasn't really concerned where we were playing at. I was going to leave that to Chet and Jack, let the two athletic directors figure that out, and all the powers to be that way. I was just trying to make sure that our team would be ready. So during this whole time, I was more concerned about how was everybody doing during the pandemic? How was your summer school classes going? Okay, how are we going to get these guys ready to play, using virtual meetings? And that was where all my focus was at. because I wasn't really concerned about where we were playing. I just know the people we were opening up with. The last time we played them, they beat us pretty good. And, I thought we had a really good team last year, and quite frankly, they beat the crap out of us last year. And the last time we went to Ireland, my wife really enjoyed the trip. She had a really good job. She enjoyed visiting the castles and those types of things, but it wasn't so good of a football game for us. They got after us pretty good there. So I haven't even really thought about any of that stuff as far as where we're playing. I was more focused on keeping our guys safe and the actual opponent of Notre Dame. And I just would listen to our AD. He would tell me, give me updates on what's going on. This is probably what's going to happen. And I was good with that. Like I said, I wasn't concerned. Not that I didn't want to go to Ireland or any of that stuff, but I was more concerned of the really good football team we're opening up with.
If I may follow up, once the move was made to put it in Annapolis for the first time in the long series history, what did that mean for you as having been at Navy for a while, and for you guys as a program to finally have that there as part of a new chapter of this?
Well, I thought when I first heard it was going to happen, and Chet first told me about that, it was exciting to have the game here. And then because I started to think about the picture behind Strassmeyer's, his virtual background. I was kind of hoping that the stadium would look like that, because I was thinking, okay, when we have some of our bigger games here at home, we have a really good home field advantage, and I would love to play, Notre Dame with our stadium packed with all of our fans. Because even some of the places we have gone to, like when we went to San Diego last year, it was predominantly Notre Dame fans at that game. It wasn't like it was our home game. So any help we could get would be helpful. But then I remembered that we're in a pandemic. So the reason we're not going to Ireland is because of the pandemic. So we weren't going to have that many fans. And so that kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. But I'm excited. I'm excited to play them home here in our stadium. It's historical in a lot of reasons. I'm grateful that there'll be some fans there if we do play, which looks like everything's pressing forward that way. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts.
Thanks, Ken.
I got Mike James and then John Sadak.
Hey, Coach, it's Mike James from the Mid Report. From a recruiting perspective, getting guys onto the yard is always a big part of what you do, just to show people what the Naval Academy is about. And you haven't been able to do that this year. Yet recruiting seems to be moving along, kind of at a normal pace. How have you been able to adjust? And are there things that you've been able to do over this time that you might want to maintain going forward?
Well, the thing that I thought was interesting, for the first 3 months of the pandemic, I was in Hawaii. So, we went there for spring break, late February, early March, and then that's when everything broke out. So we decided to stay in Hawaii. And I felt like I was busier with Zoom calls. It just seemed like, I think we all kind of chuckled a couple months ago. None of us knew what Zoom was. Now, everybody lives by Zoom. And so we've been able to carry on at a pretty high pace because of Zoom. And I think it's really helped us in recruiting. We can't share our campus, which is a big part of our recruiting pitch. Coming to Annapolis, getting on the yard, seeing downtown Annapolis is a pretty strong pull for us location-wise. We feel like when we're recruiting against other service academies, when they come to see Annapolis, it's normally seals the deal for us. But the thing that we've been able to do in some of the Zoom calls, you go into people's homes. We can see them in their home. They can see us in our home. I think the intimate setting has helped us. But I think what's helped us, on this, Mike, is there's some things that you can do virtually. And I think we can be a little bit smarter, a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective in our recruiting and our coaching, in our organization. And, last night, I was on recruiting calls, for a long time. It's the way we've been kind of living through Zoom calls. But I feel like we've been able to visit with more players through Zoom calls than probably were before. Maybe a kid couldn't visit Annapolis. You know, you can't bring everybody on official visits, but a lot of times guys come on unofficial visits. But it gives us opportunity to meet with other kids that maybe, you know, couldn't visit with us before. And we do our best. We'll have a virtual background like Scott has, or we'll have a video that we show of our campus. But that's what we've tried to do.
Okay, we got John Sadak and then Stephen Ruiz.
Hey, John Sadak, CBS Sports Network. Coach, thank you for taking the time. Quarterback, obviously the paramount position of concern as you get set to enter camp. But what is that next group? I know Bill Wagner had a great piece on the fluid nature of the striker position right now, but what's the next position group that you're most eager to see who emerges when camp arrives?
One is a punter. You know, we had, you know, Owen, who's, you know, a really good punter for us for multiple years. Losing him is tough. You know, trying to find some D linemen, depth at D line. But really, I feel really good about most of our other positions. You know, I feel really good about our linebacking position with Diego coming back, who's as good a linebacker as we had. I feel good about our secondary. Pretty much all of them are coming back. Probably trying to field our D line is probably the next one. Just who's going to be the Raider. You know, that position that Crow played last year, Nazir played last year, losing Jackson Pittman. You know, but we got guys that played last year for us that will be coming back. And Jarius Warren, Jackson Perkins, you know, Mike Flowers played a little bit. You know, so we're going to have some guys step up in those roles. But you look on the offensive side of the ball, we have two returning fullbacks coming back. A lot of our A-backs are coming back, or slot backs. A lot of our wideouts are coming back. And so even though line-wise, we have 2 of the 3 starters coming back. In the other 3 positions, I feel good about the guys that are in the mix. And, you know, we've been doing this for so long that even if you're not a starter in our offense line, you're under the chutes every day. So you're practicing the same plays over and over and over. And so it's kind of like, you know, the next guy steps up and he's been, you know, groomed in that. So I'm not as concerned about the O-line. It's really just the quarterback. I'm just worried about who the quarterback is. I feel really good about our other positions.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, John.
Stephen Ruiz and then Randy Cross.
Hi, Coach. Again, I wanted to ask you about Malcolm Perry. Was there a point during his time at Navy that you realized that he was a special player? And leading up to the NFL draft, what were the conversations like with NFL teams? What were they asking you from a football standpoint about Malcolm?
Well, I think his sophomore year, when he started to, you know, he had some long runs his sophomore year, and he had, you know, a 90-yard run against Air Force. He did some stuff in practice. You're like, wow, he's faster than anybody on the field. And then he had the long run against Air Force. And, you know, Air Force is similar to us personnel-wise. So, you know, you think, well, that's pretty sweet, or that's exciting, whatever the case may be. But then he started to have long runs against Central Florida and Temple and some other people that personnel-wise might be a little bit faster than us. And I think it was against Temple. He took a hitch, a short pass, and took it the length of the field. Just made me recognize, like, okay, wait a minute, this guy is different than other guys that we've had. We've had a lot of good slot backs, but he's different. And then when he, you know, his first game that he started, he rushed for 275 yards. And so this was a sophomore year. So we didn't. It took us a year and a half to realize that he was the guy. But he rushing for 275 yards his first game, did some other good things, and then his first start against Army, he rushed for 250. And then, you know, his junior year, I made some bad decisions and different things happened, but it happened way back, even before last year. I mean, what he did last year, it happened because we gave him a chance. I mean, he was already a talented young man. And some of the questions that NFL scouts were asking, just more about his personality, work ethic, leadership. What kind of hands does he have? And he actually has really good hands. And so, but yeah, we saw early on in his career that he was a special player.
Thank you.
Got Randy Cross and then Morgan Atsit.
All right. Hey, Coach, Randy Cross.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, good to hear about your time in Hawaii. That sounds like a lot of fun. By necessity, but still fun. With the year you guys had in 2019, how many or how much expectations will weigh on this defense and the kind of the expectations from your fan base that, they are that good and that they can start off with a game like this opener and be a defense to be dealt with?
Well, great question, Randy. I mean, we just want to win. We just want to play to our strengths. And I feel like our defense is going to be our strength this year. And I feel like we got offensive skill guys that I'm really excited about. And so I feel like we got to be smart with our quarterback and not to put too much pressure on him. And, but looking at our defense, looking at, our returning guys that we're having to come back, I mean, that's a big, big plus for us. When you have your starting linebacker come back, your leading tackler who, basically, calls your defense along with the secondary guys, our two safeties inside, our corners are coming back. There's going to be a lot of, we're counting on them. We're counting on them, and I have great faith in them. I'm grateful that Coach Newberry's still here. So after, different schools trying to take him after this one season, grateful that he stayed. And I'm counting on our defense to kind of help us out. We're going to need them. And a lot of our planning this year is just to make, I see us being a really, defensive-minded football team and trying to win games.
Quick second question. Offensively, do you see any kind of an advantage getting ready for an opener with these circumstances around it? And not that your offense is simple, but there's so much repetition, and your guys as a group are so used to running this offense. Do you see some kind of an advantage in that for your kids?
I hope so, Randy. I believe so. I feel like what's happened, in over the years, and we've had to adjust too, but I kind of feel like people use the spring to get ready for us, or at least they devote some time in the spring. I mean, not the whole spring, but, a couple practices just so they can kind of get their game plan together, kind of familiarize themselves with what we do, because we're so different from what everybody else does. It's not like that people don't know what to do or they don't have a plan, and they're smart coaches, but just so they can familiarize their kids. Okay, this is our defensive package versus Navy now. Don't forget this, and you do that. And so losing that time, I feel like it's definitely going to help us, especially in our conference, where you can tell when I see people, when we play the games and their defense is so different from their base package, that that they have to put time in that. I mean, that wasn't something they put in a game in 2 days. You can tell that people have spent a ton of time getting ready for us. Nobody's had that opportunity to do that. So that's going to be, I think, Ryan, that's a great point. I really believe it's going to be a great advantage for us because people won't have had the time in spring ball to do that. So then now you're just in camp. I mean, maybe some guys do it, but I don't know if you have the luxury to get ready for all of that. You're just trying to get your guys in shape, trying to get your base stuff in. Then you got to get ready for your first game. So I'm hoping that, this can be an advantage, just a short amount of time to prepare for us.
Hey, Coach, Morgan Atsit again. Just from a schedule standpoint, what date do you hope to have everyone back? Will there be quarantine? Will there be testing? And when do you hope to start workouts, whether they're on the field or just voluntary?
And so, yes, there will be all the midshipmen will be tested when they come back. Our guys will come back on the 5th. Our team comes back on July 5th, and they'll be quarantined. There'll be 14-day quarantine. They'll be 2x2. So that, like I said, the academies, they already spelled out everything. We're not going to be working out we're not even going to be working out in small groups. So when we first get there for our 14-day quarantine, you'll just be with your roommates. So it's obviously a lot easier to contact trace what's happening. And being at the academy, it's a lot easier to kind of self-isolate and quarantine a little bit. We're surrounded by a gate with guards. And so it's hopefully that will be beneficial for us. And then we'll start to, after the 2 weeks, then we'll be in phase to start some of our summer access and some of the other stuff the NCAA is doing. But, when we couldn't come back early, like everybody else is coming back early in June, I'm like, man, we're going to be behind. But then you see some of the things that are happening. I'm kind of grateful for some of the wisdom of our medical people. And but we come back on July 5th.
Okay, we've got John Bryce and then Kareem Copeland.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Coach, for your time. I really appreciate it. I want to ask you, you referenced early in the call that a number of your guys are working out in various ways, that some had access, some were working in garages. At this point in time, do you have a sense for how your guys are able to work out on a daily basis and maybe where they will be when they return on July 5th as compared to previous summers where they were physically?
Well, our strength staff, they're in contact with each guy individually, asking them how they're doing, what they're able to do. And so, like I said, we've been able to tailor, everybody's, workout to where they're living at, doing push-ups in your garage or pull-ups in your garage or whatever the case may be. So or some guys say, hey, I don't have access to any place to run. My yard's too small, and where I'm at, they don't let us go outside. Or some guys like, hey, I got a football field, right down the street that I'm able to go run around. We've told our guys to be very careful, working out with other people. A lot of guys, they have other college teammates from other colleges. We're just telling guys, just keep your group really, really small. Be careful of doing that. But we're going to start slower, than in our assessment. We're going to assume that you haven't done anything, and at first, and, my medical staff and my weight room staff had to convince me of this because I want to get going. Okay, we have to start doing this. Okay, everybody's getting there June 1st. We're getting there July 5th. We're going to be behind, and we got two weeks of quarantine where we can't do anything. We got to pick it up. Where guys are like, Coach, no, we need to slow down. If we start to pick it up, we're going to have a ton of injuries. Guys could test positive. And so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to our testing and our protocol is pretty thorough. We're going to be very deliberate when guys come back. And we're going to start at the baseline that everybody hasn't really done much, even though we know they have, but just so that we can work gradually to get to camp. But like I said, camp is already planned out. Long by end of April. This kind of makes my nerves bad because camp isn't planned out. Or it has been, but I've ripped it up, 30 times. And so we just keep, we just keep trying to adjust and try to be fluid on all this, just like everybody else is. And we'll try our best to get ready.
Thank you.
We've got Kareem Copeland and then Mike James. Kareem, you on?
And I added blank columns to match out so that I can.
Oops, is that better?
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Hey guys, thanks for taking up the time. What I wanted to ask was, you mentioned earlier about having Zoom meetings to talk with the team about kind of what's going on with the country today. Just wanted to ask, why was that important to you, and could you expand on what you think you guys took from those talks?
I think I heard you, Kareem. You kind of break up, but I think I heard most of it. Well, it's it's what's happening in our world, and the majority of our team are Black young men, and so it's affecting all of us, and it was something I knew. Nobody told me we had to do it. I just felt like it was important for us to have a team meeting. I've always tried to create our program around a culture of a family. And that's how I've tried to build our team, on a team of love and discipline and togetherness. And to me, it's like if your family's going through something, you talk about it. So that was just kind of my thought process. And so, having those meetings were very, very powerful meetings that we had. It just made me feel good just hearing our players talk, open forum, just allowing guys to express their feelings, hearing our black players talk, hearing our white players talk and other players talk about some of their thoughts. I'm encouraged too because we've pressed forward and we're moving forward now with things we can do to help the situation and how we can make positive change. And so, I've been really, really encouraged. One of our coaches is going to be the director of racial equality, Coach R.B. Green, who's a Naval Academy grad, former lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, is from Atlanta, Georgia. Just he knows the school. Obviously, he recognizes all the injustices that are going on, being a black man that lived in this country. But our players, we created a racial equality committee with, guys from each member of our class. And I've just been encouraged. That my thing more than anything is to try to help facilitate and give them a forum and then just go from there. Really more than anything, listen to them. This generation is going to be the generation. It looks like it's going to get some change. I'm 55 years old, and it's not like any of this stuff is new. But I didn't do anything to get things changed. My generation. But it looks like this generation is a little bit more going to take things and get things done. So just listen to them. Cream has really been more of my philosophy. Give them a forum, listen to them. These are the things we need to do, and then go do them. It's been really a kind of a simple formula. Give them a platform, listen to them, and then kind of go from there.
Thank you.
Got Mike James and then Bill Wagner.
Coach, you mentioned earlier about having some exceptional quarterbacks in the last 5 years. When you have guys that are trying to replace players like Keenan and Malcolm, do you find that they feel any pressure to replicate those guys? And if so, how do you kind of get them to play their own game?
It's a great question, Mike. I think Ivan does a great job of having guys, just stay within themselves. From Ricky to all the different guys, Kaipo. There's so many in my mind I can't remember all of them. Just all the good players, obviously the guys you just mentioned, but even Will Worth, even Zach, AB. Guys play to their strength, and that's kind of been, I think, his message. Just hey, just what are you good at, and us trying to be we have to be good as a staff at accentuating their strengths. And, that's the thing that we talked about, that we did a bad job. I did a bad job in 2018 is accentuating, Malcolm's strengths. Keenan was so cerebral and he could do everything that the whole playbook was at our disposal. And we did it all. Formations, every single option available, known to option football people. We did everything with him. And because of his knowledge of everything, we were able to do that. Will Worth and Zach Aby were more physical runners, so we were more physical downhill running team. And again, I think that's early on kind of started off some of our stuff that maybe a little bit too much downhill physical running for Malcolm, and we kind of try to tailor a little bit more things for him. Ricky was was a really good thrower. So we try to incorporate some stuff to accentuate some of his pass game. So what we've been trying to tell guys, and what Ivan's doing, is just, hey, we'll see who the starter is, and we got to determine that really fast and make sure that, we can determine who that is so we can get the amount of reps for those guys and then play to their strengths. But I see, kind of back to your question and also Randy's question, I see us, last year I think we had the most explosive runs in the country, plus 10, plus 20, plus 30, plus 40, plus 50 and above. I mean, we're as explosive as our option team that I can remember as far as big plays. I don't know if we'll have those. Maybe we will, but I'm going to be okay to grind it out. And I can kind of equate to kind of seeing us maybe being like a Big Ten basketball team. You know what I mean? On offense, working the ball a little bit around, working it around, and then shooting with 3 seconds left on the clock. But playing to our strengths, trying to get a W, our defense, some of our other skill positions. Our offense is different than other people. Trying to keep people off balance with a ton of stuff that we're going to do on offense, but making sure that it's simple enough that we can execute. But that's been kind of our thoughts, Mike. Just play to his strengths, and just allow him to know that, hey, we're going to find out what your strengths are and we're going to accentuate them.
Thanks.
Got Bill Wagner and then Andrew Mintock.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned this on our call together, and you mentioned again here today, and I probably should have followed up for some specifics, but you talked about plebes having a difficult time contributing. Are you going to have access to the plebes limited or reduced from normal? I mean, usually when you started August camp, the plebes were available. Is that not the case this year? Has something changed because of COVID?
Yeah, we will have. They'll be on a limited basis. We won't have them like we normally do because of COVID-19. So that makes it very, very difficult, for a plebe to come and play. Maybe if he was at the prep school and he kind of knows, what we're doing a little bit. Maybe a certain position if you're a direct kid out of high school. If there's maybe certain positions that you can play, but in some position it almost eliminates you from playing just because that's gonna be hard, to get ready in such a short time. It's twofold. Like I said, I keep saying the same thing. To get ready would have been hard enough, but to get ready on a short time frame, and the first game you're playing is the other guys that wear a shiny gold helmet and they're really good. So there's a lot of factors going against you. So it's gonna be tough for a freshman.
So in specific, I mean, are they like not available the first 2 weeks of camp, or they're only able to go to certain practices? Are you able to say that now at this time, or is that something?
Yeah, probably not. That's probably something that has to come from the commandant. But it's not going to be the same. Our access to the freshmen will definitely not be the same like it has been in the past. And even when it was like that, it was hard to get them ready. You know what I mean? But the way it is now would be very, very difficult.
Understood. Thank you.
We have Andrew Mintock, and then we have an open spot if anyone has another question. Andrew, you're up.
Hi, Coach. This is Andrew Mentock with Blue and Gold Illustrated. I wanted to ask, I know a lot of teams are in the same boat in terms of having no or very few spring practices, but I know, for instance, Houston, I believe, had 9 spring practices. Do you think that's a pretty big advantage for the teams that were able to get in a significant amount of practices? And I think you play the October 24th. Do you think that advantage could be mitigated by that?
Yeah, I think if you had some spring practice, it would definitely help you for the first game because you could kind of evaluate a little bit, kind of where you're at and see your depth chart, and kind of coming into this time, you can kind of go back on your film and look like, okay, he'll probably be our starter. You can kind of make some of those personnel decisions. But other than that, after that, no, it's all a level playing field. So I think what it helps you with is kind of setting your depth chart of where you're at spring ball wise. Maybe if you're a more veteran team, it kind of allows you to gel a little bit more. But I think once that gets going, once the season starts, that's going to be interesting when the season starts, because it's going to be great to try to get to the first game. And I think the rest of us, I think that's going to be different too. Hopefully everybody will be able to play and there won't be any interruptions during the season, but that's obviously we all know that's up in the air too.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Mike James, and then we have an open spot.
Coach, I know you mentioned that the Chance is getting a look at quarterback this year, but usually, guys are changing positions, between, spring and fall. We see a lot of guys change position. Does the different timeline affect your ability to do that or affect your ability to evaluate guys at new positions?
Yeah, it does. Like, it makes it really hard to, evaluate, and you're trying to take some assessment maybe off meetings and some of your interaction in meetings, but not actually being able to see somebody physically do it, and them not being able to physically do it themselves hurts their development. We'll take a look at him because we feel like he's got some great, he's got a lot of things that you can't teach. I just think about two plays, even in our last two big games. He's the guy that, threw the pass to Jamel against Army, and also he caught the pass against Kansas State. And so he's got some it factor about him. That's what's really intriguing to Coach Jasper. Just his, he's got some moxie about him. He's got some leadership about him. He's kind of one of those guys. It's like, if you're a basketball team, he's kind of, hey, you've got one shot left. He's kind of, hey, give me the ball. He's one of those kind of guys. And so that's what's exciting. Can he do it? I don't know. We like his skill set. And like I said, if anybody can help him get developed, it's Coach Jasper. And so that's going to be a tall task, though. It's going to be tough, Mike. I don't know. It's going to be a tough task, but we're going to take a look at it.
Across the board, do you think you might see fewer guys change positions this year just because you don't have the chance to evaluate them?
Probably. Maybe in the secondary and some other positions, Coach New can be a little bit more, flexible with moving different guys around and the different pieces of his puzzle. I always tease Coach Newberry. He's always in the laboratory, devising something. Always concocting something new. So I'm sure his pieces it's like a chess guy. His pieces move all over the place. So I'm sure he'll still be able to move people around in his schemes and all his different personnel packages that he has. But it'll be a lot harder to do that. Maybe in O-line, we can maybe move some guys a little bit because you're in the same meeting, so you hear what the guard does or the tackle does or the center. But wholesale changing from one position to another, one side of the ball to the other, would be really hard. The other thing that helps Chance is Chance knows offense. So Chance, it's not like he's learning a new terminology. He knows offense. Just actually doing what the quarterback does, he doesn't know or hasn't done that specifically, but it's not like we have to teach him offense. He knows exactly what we do on offense because he played not back. So the other part that we thought about, maybe his perspective on knowing it from two other positions may help him play quarterback and grasp things a little bit quicker. We're hopeful for that.
Thanks.
Dave Preston, and then we have an open spot. Dave, are you on here?
Got to hit, I guess I'm learning the mute and unmute button. This is Dave Preston, still in the 19th century as far as computers. Coach, with the unique setup of practice this summer, what do you envision your biggest challenge is going to be as you try to prepare this team for the upcoming season?
Well, obviously, like everybody else, the biggest challenge is to keep our guys healthy from COVID-19. And so how do we do that? Our staff, the coaches, how do we keep our program safe that way? And second of all, with the shortened off season, to get our guys physically ready to play football without getting them hurt. Those are the two biggest things. Just keeping our guys safe, where we can get to the game and minimize some of the positive tests will happen, because I think we're seeing that's going to happen. Positive tests are going to happen. Just when we look at the data, that's going to happen. But how do we minimize the spread of it, and how do we press forward, and how do we get a team ready to play a physical game while still being cognizant of some of the social distancing things, and be in as best condition as we can, be as skill level as best we can, operationally, just running offense and defense and special teams as best we can without getting guys hurt. Because a lot of things you got to do at full speed, and how much can you do at full speed without getting guys hurt? How much can you kind of incorporate in different ways, maybe not as strenuous? I mean, that's a tough that's a tall order. None of us, nobody, no coach in the country knows the game plan. Nobody has this manual. I don't care who you are. Everybody's figuring it out, and we're gonna do our best job of trying to figure it out. But that's gonna be tough. Shorten time frame, keep people safe. Get ready for a very physical, violent game that requires, elite conditioning without getting guys hurt that may not have done anything for 3.5 months or done very little in 3.5 months. That's gonna be a hard thing to do.
And I guess a follow-up, Coach, you mentioned that this is obviously a very unique year for everybody, yourself included. Has anything in your career helped prepare you for a situation like this? And, what can prepare you for something like this?
I've been coaching 31 years. Let me just say this. No. No, I mean, there's nothing that prepares. I think all of us, in this world, who would ever thought something would shut down the world? I don't think anything will shut us for that. And also some of the social injustice that's going on right now. Just, there's been twofold, a lot of things thrown in to the equation of the lives of our players that we're having to deal with. And so there's a lot of things. I think maybe some of the other stuff with some of the social things that are going on in our country, I feel like I'm a little bit more prepared for that, because that's just living. You're just trying to help people be better and become better people and help do positive things to improve our country and the best you can. Do your part as a citizen to hopefully help our country become a better place. But the COVID-19 stuff and football stuff, no, there's nothing that prepares you for this. We're all learning on the run.
All right, looks like that's it. We're out of questions. Appreciate everyone joining us. Coach, thank you for your time. I think this worked out really well. We'll definitely do it again.
All right, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Coach.
Guys.